Hi everyone, my name is Tan Fok Jun, or commonly known as Jeremy. So I will be the presenter for this particular of report, as I am the consultant in developing this particular of report called Young Key Population and Youth Engagement in the Global Fund second grant cycle. So what I will do today is to go through with all of you about the agenda of today's presentation, and also the presentation of this particular of report, as well as how can you actually use the report in the relevant process within your own country while engaging with necessary stakeholder. So what we will do is we will look into the introduction, why are we developing this report, as well as the methodology of developing the reports. And then we will go into preparation part, which I will talk about what are some of the things that you need to take note of, and also what are some of the information within the report for the preparation stages. And then I will go into the plan of action, where I will share a 6 step tips for you of what you can actually do in the whole processes of the GC7. And lastly is to talk about the support and resources that is available within the report itself, and just a very quick summary at the end of this presentation. So without further ado, let's get into the introduction. So the purpose of why Youth Lead, and also the Y Plus, why we are developing this particular of engagement guide, is to increase the knowledge of young people, young key population, and also youth-led organization about the global fund grant cycle processes itself. And the reason so is that often young people mention that they do not have adequate and also sufficient information to have meaningful engagement. So because of that, we want to equip also the youth-led organization with information about the grant cycle 7, and also provide any technical assistance in terms of developing the youth action plan while you are engaging in the processes itself. And lastly, we want to increase the youth participation and also the advocacy opportunity through capacity building, and also available and to identify available resources so that we can push forward some youth priorities within your own countries. And so how do we come out with the report? So we rely on a test review approaches on some of the existing reports, a manual, as well as a guideline that illustrated good practices around the region, some experience about the youth experience with the Global Fund country coordinating mechanism, and also some meaningful youth engagement practices, in proposal writing and also funding requests. So if you look at the reference report which I have listed here, so these are the 4 reports and the document that I have used in developing the report, in developing the report based on some of the information that is available in this report. And one of the particular reports that I want to highlight, which is the a situational analysis of challenge and facilitating factor for meaningful engagement of youth in CCM within the Asian and Pacific. It's a very good document for you to understand what is some of the input and what are some of the sharing from young people about the CCM mechanism within the Asian and Pacific region, and where are some of the gaps that I think we should take note of so that we can improve ourselves while engaging with certain stakeholders and also potential actors within the process of GC7 engagement. So with that said, okay, so the primary framework of the reports that I have, the engagement guide I have developed, break into 3 particular part. So the first part is the preparation part, and the second part is the plan of action, and the third part is the support and also the resources, which I will go into details very quickly. So in the preparation part, we kind of illustrated and explained, how does the processes of the Global Fund grant cycle actually works. So in each of the funding cycle, Global Fund actually allocates a donor fund to each eligible countries. So what will happen is that country will then take action to apply for their funding, and in the process of applying for funding, they would definitely need to engage in inclusive consultation at the country levels as well. And then what will happen is that they will do a series of technical review, and upon the approval from Global Fund and also the country, the TRP technical review panels, what will happen is that the country will implement the grant, and when a country have received the grant and agree to implement the grant, this is where the civil society organization, youth-led organization, or various party in place who play a role in your national HIV response could start to do evaluation and oversight throughout the implementation of the program by monitoring, what are the performance and whether is it working or not. So if you can look at the graph that I have indicated here, what will happen is that you will have a funding request submission where country are requested to actually submit in a simple language a proposal, but in a global fund language we call them the funding request, of indicating what are some of the activities and what are some of the components that your country would like to would like to pitch and use the funding accordingly in supporting your country HIV response. And then after you have submitting a funding request to the Global Fund, and upon approval, the TRP team, which is the technical review panel within your own country, will review the proposal and review the funding request before it make into a grant. And once a grant has been made, once it has gotten the approval, this is where grant implementation will start. And then this is where also we do country dialogue, we do oversight consultation to monitor the progresses itself. So in order to make sure that we are able to participate in these processes in a meaningful manner, there are a few of the things that you need to take note, in the process while you are preparing for the process of applying for the funding request. So the first thing is, and these are five of the thing, and I'll go into them straight away. So the first thing is to understand about the country coordinating mechanism. So what is CCM? So CCM is it's a mechanism or a representative a bodies which encompasses all the sectors in the response of the disease within your own country. So it can be HIV, it can be tuberculosis, or it can be malaria, which we call them HDM as the abbreviation. So within the CCM committee itself, you would have the academic institution, representative from the academic institution, from the civil society, faith-based organization, government people, multilateral and also bilateral agency, a non-governmental organization, as well as people living with the diseases, basically representative from the community themselves and the private sector, and also technical assistance. And why it is so important for us to identify who is the members within the CCM, because this is very crucial for us to develop the strategic roadmap so that we know who are we going to engage with, who are we going to communicate with while we are developing the communication plan. And do bear in mind that the experience engaging with the CCM might actually change depending on who is actually sitting in your country's CCM, because not all the country would have a CCM youth representative, and the presence of having a youth representative plays a very significant role of how much the youth voices and also the community concern will be represented throughout the whole processes. And the particular of link that I am attaching here, the country coordinating mechanism policy, including principle and requirement, is a reference that you can further read to have a deeper understanding of what is CCM is about and how you can actually reach out to some of these people. So what should you do when your country do not have a youth CCM member that you can get in contact or engage with? So the first thing you can do is to identify who is the person in charge in the broader coordination of the CCM, so that you can reach out to them in developing your roadmap and also your engagement plan. And throughout the conversation with this particular person, which is most likely what we call the CCM focal point person in your country, to identify how can youth-led organization or young people engage and contribute in the processes. So with this said, it is also important for you to identify the allies in CCM, who are some of the adult or other community members or other constituents who are willing to facilitate the youth-led organization or young people involvement in the processes. For example, while you are developing the youth notes, the guidance note, while there is any orientation program, if there is any meeting agenda, community consultation, oversight checklist, so on and so forth, and how can young people give feedback to all these allies so that they can bring all these voices forward in the CCM meetings. So what else can you do? You can utilize the CCM funding for external technical support, meaning that you can call for consultation, you can call for dialogues, you can call for meetings with youngsters to get to create that kind of platform to develop, to disseminate, and also collect the feedback. And and you should also have frequent communication with other youth network and also the groups as well as the constitution, so that this can be done through methods such as like physical dialogue or consultation, as well as using digital approaches such as Zoom, WhatsApp group, as well as email threads, newsletter, infographic. Lastly, what you should do is also to lobby with the CCM member to get youth representative so that they can participate in community consultation, drafting the committee, and also to become a member of the drafting committee for the funding request, as well as the oversight for the grant implementation and advocacy. So the next component and the next important point that you need to take note is the eligibility. So in order for a country to apply for the Global Fund funding, you need to make sure that your country is eligible. So if you go to the so-called the Global Fund website, by assessing the country eligibility list to 2030 2023, you would check your country portfolio statuses and also the eligibility statuses of your country. What are the particular diseases in your country, and what is the disease burden? One thing that is very important for you to take note is that all the low and also lower middle income countries are eligible to apply regardless of which disease burden. However, if your country falls into the category of upper middle income country, you must have at least a high burden of diseases in order to apply and also eligible for Global Fund financing. So for example, let's use Afghanistan as an example. So in Afghan, the disease burden is only high for malaria and tuberculosis, meaning that the country is only eligible to what I mean is that if let's say Afghanistan is a low income country, so if you are low income country, despite that the HIV is not a high disease burden, you are eligible. But there are some country that is not eligible. For example, Azerbaijan. So Azerbaijan malaria is not high, but because it is an upper middle income country, so you are not eligible to apply for malaria. So it is important for you to take note of the eligibility of your country in applying for the grant. So the next thing is the allocation letter. So in summary, allocation letter basically is a document that is sent by the Global Fund to your country CCM members about CCM secretariat about what is the amount of money that is that is available for your country to apply, and what are some of the details within the document, such as the eligibility, the allocation amount, the co-financing requirement, the focus of the application, as well as the recommended application approaches. So once you if you can get in contact with the CCM member and get and get access to the allocation letter, you will have more details of what is the priority of the funding is about, so that when you develop your engagement plan, you have an idea who are the important people for you to engage with, and how can you push forward and also further the youth agenda in place. And the next thing is the submission window. So do bear in mind that there is a deadline for each country in submitting the funding request. So it is important for you to make sure that the process of engagement is done in a due time, in a timely manner, as well as the process of developing the funding request, so that you have sufficient time for review and also feedback from the necessary parties and also youth groups. And this and you can also, and this slide will be provided, I believe, to all the participants, so that you can get access to all the link that I am provided here. So in the 2023 to 2025 funding request tracker, you can get access to your country information, and to see that what is the portfolio of your country, as well as what is the deadline for the submission of the funding request. So lastly, it is very important for you to do a situational analysis before you start the process of engagement, because doing a situational analysis would help you to understand what is the current program implementation issues and program, what is the things that is actually working within your own country, what is not, and what are the gaps and also the challenges. So you should consider asking, so when you are engaging with your country, partners when you are developing the situational analysis. These are the kind of question that you should bear in mind. What is required, in increase and in order to increase and accelerate the impact of the existing current funding within your own country? Is the youth community not reachable through the current strategy? And also, is the intervention implemented actually excluding the youth community? So if your organization, or as a youth representative yourself, or as a young people, you do not have an idea how to conduct a situational analysis, just reach out to an expert through applying for technical support. So in which I will talk about in details what are some of the available resources and also available funding that you can apply for the technical support. So now, since that, so this is a dash that I want you to keep note. So a good plan is a plan that is planned, meaning that before we start a process of the engagement, the action of plan, we should already get all the information that we need, in place. And like what I have said, 5 particular of things: understanding your country CCM, making sure that you conduct a situational analysis, making sure that you review your country eligibility, and also the so-called particular of the submission deadline of your country funding request submission. So once you have all this information with you, which is available in the allocation letter, so this is where we start to plan for the action. So the first step that we are going to do is gathering information about the grant. So based on what I have just said, that is literally the first step that we should take, in the process of the engagement. So our recommendation to young people and also youth-led organization will always be to review the previous funding requests, to understand the current program performance, to look at what are some of the budget utilization, so that you understand the gaps within your own country, and also knowing that what are some of the intervention that you have applied, and also the focus of investment, as well as the gaps of programming and also the budget. So basically, before you start the process of developing the engagement and advocacy plan, you should have a good understanding already about the situation within your own country through reviewing documents such as the National Strategic Plan, situational analysis report, as well as some global reports that is available, which depict the situation of the disease condition within your own country. So the next second step is to start to develop your action plan and also your communication plan. So who should we engage? That's the question that you should actually ask. So the first quick response and to that question is to go through the CCM member. Then other subsequent question comes: how do we reach out to the CCM member? Where are these CCM member, and then who else is in the CCM? So once you already identify that who is in the CCM, it is also important for you to engage with peoples within these particular of categories which I illustrated within the own figure, because all these parties and also actors play a very significant role within your own country. They might not be representative within the CCM. For example, the Global Fund team, because they have experience of the previous grant, and also they can provide you different experience and also perspective about what are some of the gaps within the grant. So it is very important for us to start developing the engagement plan of who are the potential people that you can actually reach out to, and start to identify and gather information of how to reach out to them. So once you already start your engagement, identifying potential stakeholders and also important actor while you develop your action plan, the next step is to call for dialogue and consultation. You already know who is these people. You already know how to reach out to them, and this is where we start to create the space for young people to create their ideas, to exercise their advocacy, as well as highlight the gaps within the existing program. So there are multiple ways for you to actually do this. You can while engaging in the funding request, for example, you can have in-depth interview with a group of young people or individual young people. So if it's individual, it is usually in-depth interviews. If you're doing it with a group of people or young people or youth-led organization, it can be in a form of focus group discussion, or call for a national dialogue with youth networks, and also consultation with youth implementers or community health workers within your own locality. And all these so-called opportunity and also ways is very crucial, because all these consultation implementation of feedback, gathering processes actually help us to reflect the experience of young people regarding the implementation either in the previous grant or the current grant, so that we can continue review what are some of the things that is working, what is not working, so that we can use all this feedback in developing the new funding request. And all this information is very important, so that the drafting committee who will be drafting the funding request will be more alert and inclusive of youth issue while developing and writing the funding request by considering the needs of young people. So this is just a very quick example of some of the innovative ways of country dialogue across the region. So in Kenya, what they did is that they purchased data bundle so that they can support the community to participate in online meetings. For some other country like Ecuador, they use a snowballing invitation approach where they invite certain community member, and then the community member invite other community member to participate in some of the technical support. In some of the consultation, online meetings, or even physical dialogues. In Indonesia per se, they take things even further. They use existing Twitter account to inform the public about the funding request development in a bilingual manner, so that those people who are not familiar with the language of English are able to still provide feedback through the local language per se. And they also come out with some innovative videos to encourage people to get involved in the country dialogues. And there are, of course, subsequent other approaches, such as online survey and also consultation, having diverse working group communicating through emails and also virtual meeting, and also partnering and working with organizations who are experienced in the key population issues, or even LGBTIQ issues, so that community members have platform and opportunity to engage in the process of providing feedbacks. So this is just some example that is available across different region. So now we're entering the next step. So the next step is to participate in funding requests, and also to be a members of drafting committee or technical working groups. So as per what we have mentioned in the step number 3, consult. So once we have done consultation, once we have gathered feedback from the community member, the next thing that we need to do is to get feedback again from the community to make sure that whatever that we have written in the funding request, whatever that we are drafting in the funding request are actually you reflecting the issue of the community. So bear in mind that you do not have to be a CCM member to do this. So what you can do is to reach out to the allies and to ask them, is it possible for you to volunteer, so that you can be a part of the technical working group or the funding requests drafting committee members, so that you can make sure that the youth voices are actually included within the whole processes itself. So some of the example that I can provide it is through the technical cooperation partners such as UNAIDS, WHO, the Robert Card Funding Partnership to End Malaria, or even the Stop TB Partnership, who are some of the organization or focal organization who can provide some support, or even recommending you or your organization to be a part of the writing committee. Do bear in mind that keeping a youth member at the forefront of the discussion is important, but to make sure that youth voices and also recommendation should be considerate and also and also incorporated in the funding request. So this means that it is not just important for us to consult young people in the dialogue processes to identify what is the needs, what is the priority with the youth community, but also making sure that there is someone within the drafting committee to ensure that youth issue are actually written as a priority within the funding request, and there are a commitment being put within the funding request to ensure youth issues are actually included. Or else what you can do is you can reach out to the fund portfolio manager for your own country at the Global Fund Data Explorer website to identify who is the funding portfolio manager, so that you can engage with them as well to ensure that what are some of the important things that should be included within the funding request. So the next step is to review the funding request, and also the grant making processes. stakeholders. So this means that once the funding, once we have done the consultation, once we have drafted the funding request, we need to get again, a feedback from the community, because this is where civil society and also the youth-led organization can do the check and balance to make sure that the government and also your country CCM takes young people seriously, to make sure that whatever that we have said in the consultation processes itself is actually written in the document, and also really reflecting the issues and also the needs of young people. So you should have constructive feedback, you should have constructive engagement with your country CCM member, and these processes of engagement should not stop at the stage of funding request, but also continuously in TRP review for grant making and also grant implementation. And so some of the example of innovative innovation here is by using digital methods for information dissemination, mobile health services for young people, explore HIV testing, PrEP and also PEP. Lastly, also through youth engagement, strengthening such as legal literacy and also leadership. And the last step is really comes down to monitoring and evaluation, which is about the oversight and also the advocacy. As what I said, things don't just stop at the process of engagement, but it is also important for young people and also youth-led organization to monitor the effectiveness of the program. So documentation is the key. Do remember that consistently documenting all the inputs that you have identified within the process of monitoring the program through mechanisms such as community-led monitoring, national survey and research, or even have quarterly dialogue with your own CCM CAPI rep, online meeting or consultation. So this is basically a summary of the 6 steps that I have just mentioned. So a very quick summary of this. So the first step is about gathering the information. The second step is about planning. The third step is about having dialogues, to get input of what is the priority. Then we progress into drafting the funding request, and then we go into then once we have the funding request, we conduct again review with the community to make sure that to double check and making sure that priority are reflected correctly, issues are actually included within the funding request, and lastly is about the implementation and also the monitoring. So I won't go into details about this because it's I kind of already explained what are some of the things that you can do in the action plan. So within the own reports, a very huge component is also about the resource and also the support. What are some of the reference? What are some of the document? Who are some of the people that you can reach out in order to get information? Which I have break into these 3 particular of phases of stages. So the first stages is about before applying for the money. So as per what I have said, you should review, you should read all the materials, and these are the list of the document that is available, which can help you to have a deeper understanding of your country, you can understand the performance of your country in the past, but as well as understanding what are some of the information relevant to the upcoming and the existing grant, so that you know what is the priority and you can identify and strategize what are some of the focus that you would like to highlight in the consultation itself. And the next step is during the process of funding request, writing and also the grant making. So this is where you can you should have dialogues. So if you do not have a good idea or clear idea of how you can actually consult meaningful youth engagement, you can refer to some of the document that I have listed here, and within the document that has been developed itself, there is an agenda of youth consultation in the Annex C, which youth-led organization can use it at your own discretion in developing your own engagement dialogue and also consultation or even meetings with your own relevant stakeholders or CCM drafting committees. And you should actively participate in formal and also informal youth programming meetings such as a webinar, panel discussion, focus group discussion, advocacy campaign, so that youth consistently having a platform to speak up and express your own ideas. And do bear in mind that if you would like to apply for technical assistance for the process of consultation, there is a deadline for it, which you can refer as the table that I have illustrated as below, and it divided into 3 particular of track A, track B, and track C. At it has different component. Track A would help your country in supporting technical, providing technical support such as situational analysis, and track B is about supporting the process of engagement in country dialogue processes, and track C is about other relevant costing support that you might need. And the last stage, and this is a further information, under the Global Fund, there is existing community engagement strategy initiative which provide technical support. So in Asian and Pacific, it is EPCASO who are providing technical support for organization in Asian and Pacific, and you have all other organization in different region and different part of the world that is also providing technical support. And so the last stage is about the grant implementation and oversight. So without going into details of these are some of the questions that you can use as a reference or even anchor while you get into all the processes, which I have listed in the left table. What are some of the things you can do? So when you are doing all these activities, these are some of the questions that you should ask about the finance. Is the money, where is the money is being spent? Is young people being benefiting from the money? Procurement, is young people receiving enough HIV treatment, testing kit, or even prophylaxis? Ask question about the implementation. Is it working? Ask about the result. Is the result, actually reflecting what young people would like to see? What is the process of all this reporting, as well as what are some of the technical assistance, such as where are grant implementation bottleneck in reaching out to young people? So this is almost my last slide. So in the toolkit itself, we also provided some tools within the annex. So the first tool is the stakeholder analysis matrix, which can help you in identifying the key players while engaging while in your own country engagement processes. What are their roles? How can they influence your level of participation? Their interest of being allies or enabler, as well as what are some of the strategy. And then we also listed a lot, I would say, we developed multiple activities, youth-centered activities across the 7 module of RSSH, which is the resilient and sustainable system for healthcare, for health, which is a very important component in your country global fund funding request development. So you can use it as a reference as some of the example of activity that you can pitch and lobby with your own country CCM as important youth related activity to strengthen the HIV response in your own country for young people. And of course, we also provided a sample of agenda for youth consultation, which you can use as a reference in promoting mutual feedback mechanism and how young people can be, a facilitator in this kind of consultation and also meetings. So lastly, I would just like to quickly summarize that the guideline of this so-called document is actually to increase the understanding of the user about the upcoming Global Fund grant cycle 7, and also to build a framework of plan of action, which youth-led organization can use it as a foundation in developing your action plan, as well as providing and also identifying where are some of the places you can get support and also the tips in order to have meaningful and engagement processes with stakeholder in the whole process of grant cycle. So with that, thank you so much for listening to me. You can reach out to me through my emails if I am attending the call through virtually. I am more than willing to take any action. But if you have any question that you are not able to ask within this particular meeting, feel free to write an email to me. And that's all from me. Thank you very much.